The War Within player numbers are in, and they're odd. What is this? I've been feeling like the game's been pretty damn popular. I feel like the cities are pretty packed. I feel like there's a lot of people doing things, running things. Forming up raid on stream's pretty damn easy. But what do the numbers actually show? Let's see what Bellular has figured out about how many people are currently playing this dead game.
Welcome back. I'm going to jump right in with something that's so juicy. With a sample of over 1 million World of Warcraft accounts, 4% own the mighty Caravan Brutosaur from Battle for Azeroth. In just over a month, 5% of that same sample of accounts own the Traders Gilded Brutosaur.
Of course they do. Of course they do. And if you don't own it, you can get it because I'm giving it away this Friday. Get in the stream. Watch 1 hour of my shitty stream. You can get a chance to win it.
To be exact, that is 5% of 1,158,952 accounts. At $90 a pop, that is 104,350,680. That's a lot of...
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's a shit ton of... They're going to do this again. Yeah, they're going to do this again. I would say if this made you angry, prepare to be angry again, because that's a lot of freaking money.
Dollars. And of course, that's just from this only north of 1 million account sample. There are obviously more WoW accounts. And yeah, there's definitely a bias because of how the APIs work towards, like, active players, but... goddamn, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
And it's also only the beginning of today's fun. You see, Blizzard provides an API for World of Warcraft, and that lets developers query Blizzard servers for data and things like Mythic Plus keystones and achievements. That's why Raider.io works and all of those different websites. And today it lets us have all sorts of fun because we can work out what the hell are people actually doing in World of Warcraft in the War Within? What are they doing? And with raids and with Mythic Plus, are those actually okay? Like, are those bits of the game okay?
I'm going to tell you right now, I've not watched this, but I bet you Mythic Plus numbers are... even if player numbers are up, I bet you the Mythic Plus numbers are down. Because this season of Mythic Plus has been absolutely atrocious. A complete shit show. Utterly disgusting is how I can describe this season of Mythic Plus. I haven't enjoyed it at all. It's the least I played any season, probably in 3 expansions. And it's sad because End of Dragonflight, that season, whatever, season 4 or 3, they're fantastic. Some of the most I've played in a season. So I don't know what went wrong, what the hell, why their philosophy changed. I felt like they had finally gotten it right, and then they just made a Yui. They're like, you know what, let's fuck it up again. Let's turn this way. Yeah, so I don't know. The Mythic Plus community thanks you. Yes, no problem. No problem.
Got so much, especially today's sponsor, who keep me protected online every day. So here's the deal. Data brokers exist. They harvest our data any way they can. They suck,
of course,
and then they sell that data. That means robocalls, spam, and worse, of course, security vulnerabilities, especially the likes of social engineering. And when big corporate data leaks happen, that data ends up with the brokers. And the good news is that incogni.com/bellularwarcraft is your superpower here, and it's so goddamn simple. Basically, we've got the legal right to take our data down, but that takes hours and nothing stops that from just being recollected again. So what Incogni does is it scans the brokers, automatically sends those takedown requests, it adds you to suppression lists, and best of all, they constantly rescan to keep your data down.
Fantastic.
Here's my dashboard. 114 sent, 8 in progress, 106 takedowns completed, and I'm on 21 suppression lists, meaning those brokers will not recollect my info. Wow. You can add 3 emails and home addresses as well, and the upshot here is really simple. Your data will not be spread around these brokers without your knowledge or consent. And I mean, literally, I've not got a single robocall since I started with them. Incogni means you can actually benefit from the laws that do exist that are meant to protect us, and you will get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/bellularwarcraft. Part 1 then, basically what are players doing? So here's data for Azeroth. It's made by Shogun, who's a really cool developer, and it scrapes data using Blizzard's API. And of course, it's a system, right? It's not going to be perfect. Only Blizzard's own internal stats are perfect, and it's not like they...
Right, so the numbers he's going to gather here are the number of people rating, the number of people doing Mythic Plus, so that's how he's going to understand how many people are
just
playing.
Just let you query, hello Blizzard, how many subscribers do you have? That would be pretty crazy. What this does have, though, is 1.162 million accounts and 3.352 million characters. There are more methodology details in the pinned comment, and we can do some fun numbers wizardry with all of this. You see, not all of Data for Azeroth's accounts have been active recently, and not all of the ones that have been active since the War Within is released will have actually, owned the War Within. They could be level 3. So, to isolate only the accounts who have played the War Within, we need to find an achievement that every War Within player actually would have completed.
Okay.
And I think it's pretty obviously this one. It's called You're Getting a Delve. It's just to do a delve. You complete that almost instantly. 47% of accounts have completed this one. It's actually the highest completion percentage achieved.
Only 47%? Who the fuck? What are the other 53% of the players doing in the game? They've never completed a delve. What? How do you play the... I'm confused. Yeah, only, yeah. What? That's what I'm saying. What? How did you play this? How have you played this expansion for this long and never ran a delve? What is this, like some kind of weird boycott shit?
Achievement of all the ones that
I would expect it to be like 98%.
And it's right in line with other early expansion content like the Rookery, which you do through the quests, and the basic campaign achievements. So using that 47% number, we then find that of our total amount of accounts,
it is
544,707 are actually in the War Within, as like active War Within players since the expansion came out. And we can see that, well, here's the delve participation. It stays high until tier 8, which is...
Okay, well, I guess you can use that as a baseline. Okay, so that's what he's basically using. He's saying like 47% means those are active players, because how the fuck are you playing this game without completing a delve? Because that's like part of the campaign. So that's what. So he's using that as a baseline and then going from there. Okay, now this makes sense.
60%, and then
probably the rest are like unleveled alts and shit like that. That's probably why that number is the way it is.
It's tier 9 delves, 23%. 15% of accounts have cleared a tier 10 delve, and a mere 6.38 have cleared tier 11 delves. One thing surprised me a little bit, though. Only 36% of people have the Delver's Dirigible, which is kind of insane because you earn that by like doing your first bountiful delve. Are people not doing that? But if you dig deeper, you actually see it's not that completely insane. Some people actually have problems getting that quest to trigger, seemingly because it would only...
You're right. So that's just people people who started the game and never finished, I guess. I don't know. People who died during leveling. I have no idea how to account for the fact that only 47% of people did delves.
Only trigger.
And he said like 30-something% only have dirigibles. What the hell? Are they even playing the game? What are these people doing? You know what? I bet you I know what it is. It's Moonguard. It's all the Moonguard people who only literally play the game to go to Goldshire. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
After the beginning part of the
skewing the numbers.
Campaign. Also in the Delve achievements, Zach Veer
maybe they're playing Classic. I don't know, maybe.
Of the active accounts, and his double question mark hard mode was cleared by only 4%. Let's touch on the raid basics then. 49% cleared all of the bosses on any difficulty, 15% cleared all on heroic, and 17 got ahead of the curve. And that does mean that a few of you were a little naughty and you got a kill of Ansarak heroic, but not every single other boss. But it's okay, I won't tell you. Hopping over to Mythic Plus then, well, 45% did a Keystone Dungeon, 32% got to 1500 rating, 25% reached KSM, and 11% got Keystone Hero.
I guarantee you those numbers are down from like the last season of Dragonflight. For sure they're down.
Reached KSM, and 11% got Keystone Hero. But you know what's real interesting? World content. I mean, how do you quantify that? How do we work that out? Well, what we can do is look at the renown stats, I think. So for the Hallowfall Arathi, 26% of you hit renown 15, and only 6% hit renown 25. And it's similar with the rest of them, with, say, 26 and 5%, 28 and 7%, 26 and 5% for Council, Assembly, and Severed Threads, respectively, which is lower than I thought and does explain how only 2.66% of the sampled accounts have Kaz Algar Diplomat, which did feel super low to me.
I'm not one of them.
Honestly, I can see why. I mean, unless you have been diligently doing your weeklies and your bountiful delves, yeah, you kind of won't have got that.
You have to be doing that, chasing that with a purpose to have it right now. I know a lot of people be like, oh, I got it passively. What are you talking about, Sam? No, you didn't. You fucking play the game a shit ton. That's why you got it. That's why you got it. If you're not playing the game a lot and you want to get that achievement, like you want to get your renowns all the way up, you got to do it with a purpose. Like you got to get on and do the things that are going to give you the most renown. Otherwise, you only get it by just playing the game a shit ton, which I don't.
Much rap, I guess.
I do, but I don't. Like I play the game a lot, but not as degeneratively as I wish I could.
I mean, Renown 25 really does represent people just sticking around, continuing to do the world content. And that got me thinking, what about the anniversary patch? I mean, we have this sample of characters who, because of like how achievements and time work, we know are like War Within people. So how many of them have actually done the anniversary event? That's where it's actually kind of interesting. 29% of sampled people have defeated a Tanaris world boss, 10% completed the entire Blackrock Depths raid in any difficulty, and
It was
18%
ridiculous.
got 100 tokens, thus opening ungated token earning.
Guaranteed, if it wasn't so damn overtuned to start, that a lot more people would have done this. I think a lot of people fell into the same issue that I did, where like I tried it early on, and it was so ridiculously overtuned that I was like, yeah, nah, fuck this. I don't feel like raid progressing through this right now, and I just stopped doing it. But had they came out with it and it was really easy to start, or at least like just doable to start, then I think a lot more. This percentage would be a lot higher. Because I feel like a lot of people did start playing when the anniversary event went live, or a lot of people active at that time.
All kind of interesting, right? And so far, these are curious to me, but do you know what they actually open up that's far more important? We can track, with this cohort of players, expansion-wide retention of all the accounts that have done a Tier 1 delve in this sample, right? Or something that any War Within account would have completed. How many, well, got a given patch 11.2 achievement? That's actually fascinating. But of course, it's not all for today. And for the next bit, gonna hop over to the other set and gonna talk about Mythic Plus. We're gonna talk about Raid. Okay, take a look at this. At first glance, Mythic Plus definitely does look kind of worrying. I mean, the War Within is lagging behind Dragonflight Season 3 pretty significantly.
Yeah, but that was such a good season. Dragonflight Season 3 was such a good season, man. It really was. Like, I think there's more people playing right now than there are that were playing back in Dragonflight, but the season's so bad that they're just choosing not to do Mythic Plus.
Even though this is the first season of a new expansion, and that does worry me. Now, that being said, the difficulty level changes that effectively moved the old levels 2 through 10, those would always have dented the numbers a little bit, and delves are absolutely going to be siphoning off players. But this is the launch of an expansion. A lot of new people should be there, so I'm concerned about these numbers.
It's the season.
Taking a look,
it's bad.
Dragonflight Season 3 opened with 3.2 million runs. That's 800k more than Week 1 of the War Within, and each subsequent week of the War Within has actually lagged behind Season 3 of Dragonflight by 300k to 500k. That's a lot of Mythic Plus keys.
I'll be honest, though, I can't really explain this. Why there's such a big hype to start. Like, I understand the drop-off and the fact that it's not going to catch Dragonflight because it's just a bad season, but why was it so different here? Was there, like, some kind of classic launch at the same time or something? This seems pretty concerning, actually, this difference to start. Because we didn't know the season was shit until probably here. Delves? Oh, yeah. I think you're right. Because a Tier 8 Delve was like a, what was it, like a 6+6 key, right? So yeah, you're just gonna do, that's what I did. You make a good point, Coney, because that's literally what I did. I didn't do any Mythic Plus when the season started because I was just running Tier 8 Delves. Shit. That just aren't being done. That's a good point.
Now, of course, runs is the key word here, right? If you've got the same amount of players, but they're just playing twice as much, there'll be way more runs. And Season 3 of Dragonflight was notably easier.
You don't do
than
any
normal.
Mythic Plus,
and
period.
it's funny because people actually seem to kind of love it. This chart, right? This shows the percentage of keys that people did that were actually successful across all difficulty levels, and it is quite the contrast. Dragonflight Season 3 opened strong at an 85.87% success rate. The War Within's was only 76.97%. Which is not a massive difference, but it's pretty much 9%, and that's over millions of runs. So that's actually a hell of a lot of gameplay. Gameplay that is, on average, less successful, and Mythic Plus is pretty damn punishing in terms of how, well, you lose your time because you didn't achieve your goal.
Yep.
But then
yeah. This whole thing, I mean, look at the curve, how much, this is because of nerfing. Like, this clearly shows an overtuning here. I mean, you got a difference. Look at that difference. Down to 72%, up to 84%. What the hell? Talking about a 12% jump from the lowest point to the highest here. That's massive, and that's because it was overtuned. It's badly done to start, so yeah, it was pretty shit.
Difference, but it's pretty much.
And that level of difficulty does deter people from doing Mythic Plus again, because like we said, there was delves available too, so they just say, fuck it. If I'm not going to be able, if there's a 72% chance only for me to clear this thing and it's going to take 40 minutes, why wouldn't I just go do a delve at 100% chance, and it only take me like 15 minutes.
Another Death Knight.
Hate Spark, thank you for the Prime sub. Death Knight of our Scourge. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And that's over millions of runs. So that's actually a hell of a lot of gameplay. Gameplay that is, on average, less successful, and Mythic Plus is pretty damn punishing in terms of how, well, you lose your time because you didn't achieve your goal,
Yep.
but then your key depletes, and a lot of people don't really like that.
It's punishing.
So here's where things do change a lot, though. The War Within Week 2 and 3 decreased to a mere 72%. Dragonflight Season 3 increased all the way up to a 91.72% success rate by week 5. Now, as time goes on, there are factors that can make these numbers fluctuate, right? Like maybe more people doing higher keys, which could decrease the success rate. But I think the core
I don't
point
think that's
is
what it
clear.
was here.
Even at its peak success of 84.02% in week 8, the War Within success rate does not actually...
The highest success rate of the War Within was lower than the lowest success rate of Dragonflight Season 3. That tells you something.
exceed the lowest value seen in either Season 3 or Season 4 of Dragonflight. And to many of us, that's going to be completely obvious. It feels like Mythic Plus is way harder in the War Within, and the number...
Also, I will say, it's not just the affixes and like the dungeon selection that's made things harder. The tanking and healing changes, to me, is one of the biggest reasons why it's gotten harder. The nerfing of tanks and the need to buff healers to overcome that has been it's been destructive to Mythic Plus, absolutely. Because in Mythic Plus, when the tank dies, it's a wipe. And when it's a wipe over and over, guess what happens? Your key gets depleted. Guess what happens when your key gets people leave. People leave frustrated and angry. Blizzard needs to go back and revert some of that. I don't know who the fuck asked for those changes to tanking. I don't think anybody did. I just think somebody over there said tanks are too strong for some reason, and they wanted to... It's ridiculous. It's been a really bad choice by Blizzard, and I hope they revert it at some point and buff tanks a little bit, because it's been really bad.
Well, they do actually back that up. Now, of course, people do often like hard punishing games. Those are played all the time. But when we see low numbers like this at the launch of an expansion, it shows that perhaps it's not just the difficulty. It's the overall formula that doesn't seem to be working for players right now. But okay, this is overall numbers. Let's try to zoom in to the per dungeon level. Looking at this, we see the number of runs and the in-time ratio and a very, very clear pattern. The shorter dungeons with higher completion rates are the ones that players choose to run more than the slower ones with lower completion rates. Yeah. Indeed, the top 3 dungeons are those with only 3 bosses, and yeah, they're also generally far easier. Then on the flip side, take a look at these success rates for Borealis, Grim Batol, and Necrotic Wake. Those are the hardest dungeons. They've got tough bosses, tough mechanics, and mechanics that lean very heavily on group utility, so it generically punishes people who aren't
Servers
planning.
are up, nice.
And if you're doing a whole bunch of pug runs, well, maybe you won't be planning as much. Now, if there is a silver lining in this data, it is probably that the difference in time ratio between War Within Season 1 dungeons is lower than in past seasons. So past seasons were easier, but they did have less even difficulty.
In-time ratio? Well, that's probably because, it's because it's so hard. It's essentially filtered out all of, the more casual Mythic key runners, and the only ones left are like the hyper key runners, so you're going to have more time, a higher percentage of timed keys. That makes sense. Whereas Dragonflight Season 4 was so easy that every casual and their brother was running Mythic Plus. It was super fun, super easy to get into, and of course it's going to lead to less timed keys because you got a lot of people doing Mythic Plus for the first time, but it was better. It was a lot more fun. The War Within Season 1, it's going to be high because it's so damn hard. And people just stop doing it, unless you're a really good key runner.
It does seem then that the War Within is harder overall, but it is more consistent in its level of challenge. None of this comes as a surprise to me, and it probably isn't a surprise to you, even if you're looking at, say, the very top players in the game who often...
He's talking about the top players. Where's my tweet? Does he have my tweet?
Are streaming, who've got YouTube channels, they are not feeling great about Mythic Plus. So the highest end players don't appear to be that happy, and certainly looking at mid-level players and newer players, well, they really seem to be bouncing off Mythic Plus in this season. Taking a look at the data that we've got access to, Season 3 of Dragonflight was easy. Some may even say it's a touch too easy, but people actually...
was not too easy. Was just about the right amount of easy. It was very fun. It was good to do. You could push keys really high. If you want it to be hard, you just go for higher keys. That's the good thing about an easy season. It's easy on the front end. If you really want a challenge, push that shit infinitely higher on the other end. It appeals to both parties, the noobs and the pros. That's what's good about an easy season. It was not too easy.
Actually played a lot of it. You could argue that they did that just to get some more gear, but I'd also argue, what is the core of an MMO about? Well, in so many cases, it's about doing dungeons with your friends
Yeah.
and having a good time.
There
I
you
believe
go.
that fundamentally Dragonflight Season 3 did that more effectively.
100%.
Now, I will be doing a deep dive into Mythic Plus soon, and my co-author on this video and the Mythic Plus one is in fact a regular top 3 worldwide Mythic Plus rating paladin. He's often actually rank 1, so
Wow.
we've got a lot to say. That's coming soon, but next let's have a chat about Raid. All of this data is tracking guild kills
Okay, yeah,
via
let's see this.
Raider.io. Now that data comes directly from Blizzard's API, which is good. It means we can actually trust this data that it's real. Now the strength is that this is tracking
I feel like the raid's pretty good. Queen Ansarek's a tough fight, yes, but I feel like the raid is not overtuned. BRD was worse than this raid was. God, I forget what the hell the City of Threads. Like BRD was way harder. So this raid I feel like is good tuning. It's been good difficulty. Queen Ansarek's a bitch, but overall I feel like it didn't deter people from raiding.
guild kills, right? Now, guilds are often the bedrock of a game like World of Warcraft. If the guilds go away, you're only going to have fair weather, short-term fans, and your
Oh, who the
audience is
fuck's he
just
talking?
going to...
Why are you talking so much shit? No, that's not true. If you're not in a guild, you just come to my stream and you run with the stream. That's it. That's not. He doesn't know.
evaporate. Another massive plus of using guild
talking
kills
shit.
is that they're less sensational and a better measure of the underlying health. And in our data, we're looking at first boss kills because those represent a guild participating in a raid, and then we're looking at last boss kills, which of course represent a guild completing the raid. Those are both key indicators of health, and they're ones that we saw change radically through the Dragonflight expansion.
Sure.
Vault of the Incarnate's participation was very high, but completion rates were quite low by the end of the season because Razageth was a properly tough fight. And I'd certainly say a marvelously designed one. Now, Sarkareth
Razageth
and
was
Farak,
great.
normal and heroic, were both far...
Razageth was harder than Sakareth and for Cock, but she was fun. She was a difficult boss in a fun way. I would venture to say Queen Ansarek is kind of too. There's nothing too insane about Queen Ansarek. You got to pop some nipples at the right time, but otherwise, it's a fight that I don't feel like is too annoying. It's a pretty fun fight, honestly.
easier end bosses.
Well
and that
designed.
is reflected in this data. The completion rate, which is basically just
plug an 8 of
what
8
are the
Mythic
percentage
in.
of the people who did a first boss kill who ended up getting a last boss kill. We can see Vault's 82, 62, and 20% rates on normal, heroic, and mythic, and how those are
Yeah, so heroic clear is honestly like your typical WoW player, like peak performance, right? That's like where they're gonna reach their peak. Mythic rating is really for like people who play this game almost as a second job, if not their first job. That's where Mythic rating comes in. So I'm more interested in the heroic numbers, which look pretty damn good here so far.
dwarfed by Aberys's 92, 77, and 29% rates, and Emirdrasil, which was again higher in normal and heroic, but substantially lower on Mythic. That's because Mythic Farak and the bosses that led up to him were pretty damn spicy. Okay,
Yeah.
let's bring in Narubar Palace.
Ooh,
Bear
oh
in mind,
shit. Oh my god. Whoa. Whoa. Well, I mean, it's kind of comparable to, Razageth, the harder end boss fight. 57%. Whoa, shit. 3.24%. Mythic. Oh, shit. That's a brutal freaking end boss. That's what that is. That's what it is.
we've only got up to week 10 data. The season
And
is
then look, you got normal doing pretty good. Normal's right in there between Aberys and Emirdrasil. This is pretty, this is also indicative of a healthy player base size. This is more indicative of like, okay, a player base that's putting rating first. That's what you're doing when you're clearing heroic.
isn't done yet, and what we see is 95% completion on normal mode, 57% on heroic, and 3% on...
Oh, and also to be noted, this is only 10 weeks. Okay, so these are 20 weeks, 26 weeks, 20. So this is half the time. So this will probably actually get up there. It's not as bad as I thought now that I'm looking at it. And by the way, my head is blocking it. It says Narubar Palace right here. That's all I'm blocking here. But yeah, that makes more sense. I didn't realize this was a 10-week only.
Mythic. Now, looking at normal, we see that's right on target with the overall numbers from Aberys and Emirdrasil. Taking a look at heroic, then, that does seem to be trending a little bit lower. So, here are the week 10 heroic clear rates for Dragonflight. Those are 39%, 70%, and 70%. Narubar
Okay.
is at 57%.
So still,
And that means
okay, so lower than these two, but these were easier bosses, but higher than Razageth. And I think this rate is more comparable to the Razageth fight. This, by the way, says 57.2% behind the chat box here. 57.2%. So that's not bad when compared to the 38.89 that you see from Razageth before.
Means that Queen Ansurek is basically easier than Razaketh. More people are clearing her, but she is substantially harder than Sarkareth and
I'll open my
Farak.
vault soon.
And of course, just thinking about how things have changed over the last number of weeks, the increase in rate for Ansurek is almost certainly because of the very heavy nerfs that were applied on normal and heroic difficulty. Okay, those are our completion rates, but we can also take a look at just the raw numbers. Again, first boss kills give us a measure of guild participation, and for Vault of the Incarnates, they're really high. So even though Dragonflight didn't set the world on fire, a lot of people did show up and they did try the raid. Now, those then decrease, but they do stay level through Aberrus and Emirdrasil, and that's actually a fairly good thing. It shows that World of Warcraft was
player
retaining
retention,
players through an expansion, rather than just having a massive spike and then a massive fall-off, like in Shadowlands. But of course, what it's not is some massive return to form. And that's why we've got to look at the broader context here to actually make sense of this stuff. So these are stable numbers. There are healthy parts. But I have to be honest with you, I was surprised and they absolutely underperformed my expectations.
I'm surprised too. Yeah, I thought the War Within was doing better, and it feels like it's doing better, but there's those numbers, I mean, they're hard to argue with. They are sustainable, like they're continuing on. We're not losing a ton of players, but we didn't see the massive early spike that you would expect from an expansion. I'm surprised. I thought the World Soul Saga kind of caught some people and really brought a lot of people back in, but Dragonflight's early numbers seem to be better. Now, I don't know if delves are really affecting rating too. Maybe there's just so much you can do in the game now that people aren't doing Mythic Plus or rating as much as they used to. But the game is healthy. That's what these numbers still tell me. The game is healthy. It's just not as maybe boom as I thought it was. The story brought the people back. The story did bring the people back, but maybe those people aren't rating. That could be it.
And here's the reason why. This dataset charts the first and last boss kills for every raid since the Nighthold. Now, you can see the COVID bump of Castle Nathria. I think because we really were very...
That's when I started streaming. Castle Nathria, man, that's such a good raid. That was such a good raid.
Of Shadowlands, we didn't appreciate how the fact that people were in a lockdown and just wanted to play an MMO meant that it had absolutely insane numbers. We didn't appreciate it at the time, but it really is a massive spike in the data.
A lot of people got laid off too, including me. So yeah, we were raiding. Why not?
So Castle Nathria is humongous, and then there's a massive drop as the essential underlying quality of
another death knight.
Mythjaws, thank you so much for the sub. Welcome to our Death Knight of our Scourge, I should say.
that
4
expansion
months.
then kicked in and players
What a
left.
champ.
As it stands, we see the Neru bar is matching and probably trending to slightly edge out Vault of the Incarnates. That is a positive thing, and Dragonflight's guild retention numbers are actually really strong. If you look at Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands, you do see lots of people
the ups
turning
and
up for
downs.
Raid 1, and then big steep drops. So, while Dragonflight and the War Within did not spike as hard, it actually appears that players are sticking around more. And looking back at the chart, Legion is obviously our dream scenario here, where we just have sustained high performance across 3 entire raid tiers. That's absolutely amazing. Legion was a pretty damn amazing
expansion. It was a great expansion.
And those raids were just incredible. If you haven't done them...
I loved Nighthold, man. Nighthold was so good, and I was so motivated to kill Gul'dan, too, because he was a bitch, and he had killed Varian, and I really wanted to get him. And Nighthold's gear. Till now, I think Nighthold has some of the best transmog tier sets in the game. That was a great raid, man. That was a good expansion overall.
Go back to them today just to see the spectacle.
Yeah,
so,
they're great
that was
raids.
really good. We saw sustained performance. The next expansions did not have sustained performance, and while Dragonflight's numbers were absolutely lower, they were sustained. And that's what matters to me. Long-term success is not built upon flash-in-the-pan success. It is built upon foundations of rock, not sand. And when I see the retention rates in Raid, well, while I'm absolutely worried about the state of Mythic Plus, I feel fundamentally better about raiding and the War Within. And so the great challenge of this expansion is not just to keep players, it is to do what others have not. To actually grow through its life, not relying on day one box sales. So that's raids then. Pretty decent.
Healthier
but
game.
Man, Mythic Plus is, well, as we'd say here, no two ways about it. Definitely looking a little bit rough right now.
Yeah,
However,
Mythic Plus is hurting the game. It really is. It's hurting the game. I feel like it's hurting player numbers. It's hurting a lot of things. I feel like I myself know some people who have unsubbed for this season because they think Mythic Plus is so bad and that's the only thing they like to do. And they haven't completely unsubbed from the game in terms of I'm never coming back. They just said, oh, I'll resub when season 2 starts. I don't really like this season. I know people who are doing that. So yeah, I think Mythic Plus is in a state, and again, it's the tanking changes and shit, along with the difficulty of the affixes and stuff. But all that combined I feel like has somewhat hurt the really what the peak could have been for the War Within.
There's plenty of people who do seem to be playing Delves, and I guess that's going to be our big question. Will the Delvers
Bunch of
make
babies
up
and
for
shitty
Mythic
players.
Plus losses? Are Delves retaining players that would
The good thing about the War Within, as compared to previous expansions and others, and it started in Dragonflight, is that if you don't like a certain part of the game, you can do other things. There is nothing in this game anymore, at least that's completely required, to get gear. You can get gear in so many different ways now that you don't have to do something that's not good, which is why I don't care as much that Mythic Plus isn't good, because it's okay. I'll go do other things. There's still a lot of things that are fun to me in this game.
otherwise leave within a month? Do they represent players
Weak
who
people.
just wouldn't be in Mythic Plus anyway? We don't really know. But what matters here is we have a method. We have a method that we can benchmark patches with. And now that we see what the launch performance of this game is, well, we can take a look at all the future patches and we can see if they move the needle in the right direction. Does this mesh with your experience? What's your experience been like versus Dragonflight? Let me know. And I'll tell you what, at least for a few of our raiders, it could be that the swirly changes that are coming in patch 11.1 might increase that retention slightly.
Yeah.
You can learn more about it in the next video.
Yeah. For me, my experiences certainly hold up with a lot of things he was saying here and showing here. I'm not doing Mythic Plus because I don't find it enjoyable right now. I am raiding. I do like the raid. Overall, I like the game. I think it's in a good spot. And I do think 11.1, with the changes they're introducing for the Mythic Plus system, for everything else, the storyline of Undermined and everything that's coming with that, the Goblin folk, I think there's a lot of good stuff coming in 11.1 that will bring people back for sure, along with Plunderstorm coming and all that, bringing people back to get ready for 11.1. I feel like the game is going to get healthier going forward. It had a good start. I feel like player retention is going to remain good, and we could see even more, higher peaks going forward here with the little, shenanigans that Mythic Plus pulled early. But overall, interesting numbers and good video from Bellular. Then at least get some crafted gear. Geez, yeah, wait, that's another thing, right? Like, you can literally craft gear now. You don't even have to do Mythic Plus. You can craft, essentially, gear that's just as good. There's some best-in-slot crafted gear, even. I get a 2K rating, get the mounts, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the mount. I'm not going to let that diamond, Robot Boy mount go past me without getting it this season. I'm going to do it. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting until I'm kind of overpowered for the season, and then I'll get in there and probably just get carried by some of you guys to get the mount. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to let that shit go. But I'm not doing Mythic Plus like in my spare time just for fun, because to me it's not fun right now. But the game overall is still fun. Ansarak slapped his... Ansarak been slapping us. We're going to get it, though. Mythic Plus isn't that bad, honestly. Oh, Jesus. Mythic Plus isn't that bad, honestly. If you have a good group, pugging it makes... Exactly. Yeah, very true. That's why I said, if I do it with the stream, if I pull people from chat and do Mythic Plus, it's a lot of fun. If I log on here in the middle of the day and just try to do one not on stream with randoms, it's not fun. It's not.